Thanks all for coming out on a very snow. Thanks, John. We don't have to spend this money until 2024, and it has to be out of the bank by 2026. So we're continuing to take requests. What I'd like to do, objectives today would be to take any new requests that we have, review some of the old requests, or just, let people know that they're here, and then put a call out for a I'm going to call it a citizens advisory committee that's going to review these, and we're in charge of going to give the town select board a thumbs up or a thumbs down. In other words, we will approve what and why we are approving it per the rules from the IRS. And I do have to tell you that just a cautionary tale, should I not get reelected, somebody else will be doing this rest of the meetings, because it has to be an elected town official that is in charge of the ARPA funds. So that being said, we got a new request from Tammy and for the town. Have we already purchased equipment? Have we purchased equipment already?
The land module.
Yeah, okay, so we've actually gone ahead and started to spend some money. And the town is looking for 20,000 into the book restoration fund from the ARPA funds to help us pay for temporary extra man hours required to upload town records, visitor cards, tax bills, permits to a land use record module, and as present, no copies or backups exist for these very valuable resources. We're a match away from not having any records, and I don't know how many towns have actually had that happen already. I know that there's at least one that I can think of where they lost everything. So we're hopefully not going to do that. And as mentioned, we have a request from the Historical Society to pay back a loan that they took out on the foundation for your building to keep that from crumbling and crashing to the ground. To date, people have talked to me specifically about things, but have not given me written proposals. Here's 2 written proposals, and I got a third from you guys, and the library also has one. So there's 4. And if you want to come up and just refresh everybody for the record, what you put in for and what you're looking for. Do you have your paperwork with you? Okay. All right. Well, we've got it in a place where I can't access it right now, but rest assured we've got it there for you. So we're looking at 4 proposals.
Who do you have there?
We have one for the library. We have one for the restoration for the Historical Society. We have one for the town. And John, you didn't put together anything for what we're doing, so John's actually representing the interest of the town,
The road crew. I don't know.
the road crew.
The equipment proposal was written and has been waited for final approval by Mac. Ultimately, because he's the individual who should be submitting it. I just wrote it for him. Food shelf, Franklin County Food Shelf. No, is that what it's called? The Fairfield Community, sorry. Yeah, they submitted one, I believe, back the other meeting, if I remember right.
According to the warning, it does any new proposals and such.
Yep.
And then chief always coming to one. Department, and then we'll get it on the fire department.
Okay,
Okay.
all right. Anybody else got anything that's new?
There's some new information on the historical society.
Oh, good. And as usual, just press the button on the screen.
Yeah, I know that some of you had a question as to whether or not the historical society was in fact the 501c3. And it was, and it still is. And I brought paperwork to document that. I think there's one in the package we submitted. But I'll give you another copy. Also, our first loan payment was due the 1st of July, and we did make that. And that was $4,917. And $1,636.59 of that was interest. And then in December, we were presented a bill from the town attorney for town representation on that loan, which with my real estate background, we don't normally, someone that's receiving the loan doesn't pay for legal representation for the other party. But we paid the $560 on that.
Okay,
And
and that's adding to all of the requests in its entirety.
just adding to the package that we gave them.
Yep.
Okay,
And I do believe the interesting thing is that it was the town that was looking for, when we were putting the budget together,
Mhm.
for the status of the 501c3 or that. So again, I don't want to mix apples and oranges.
I
but-
believe it was back when we submitted that request for ARPA funds last April. That
Oh, we were,
questioning.
yeah, well, we were questioning.
So, put that with the package.
Yep.
And we still have no employees. All volunteer. And the restoration was due to frost damage during COVID. And the situation prevented us getting the structural engineers in there in time. Asking for something to help us recover.
It's a friend of mine, just, you know.
Oh, okay, I was gonna say, who's Joyous?
Yeah.
Hey, Linda,
Yes,
just I'm not here in select board capacity, I'm more than doing this. But a quick question for you. What was the legal fees for? What was the lawyer for?
for the trustees of public funds had a lawyer, they had the town attorney to draft up the note. And there was phone conversations back and forth with town attorney, with the trustees of public funds. And we wanted to kind of get an attorney on the phone.
Clock starts. Yeah,
So.
wow.
we
Sorry.
pay that. You have anything you wanted to add?
Just whoever's next.
Oh, you go.
Keep it moving.
Pardon me?
I said, we'll keep it moving, whoever's
Okay,
next.
great. Thanks, Bill Irwin, Bakersfield. And I just want to speak. I just want to speak in support of the library support. I've heard about the asbestos flooring there, and as a member, as a employee of the Vermont Department of Health, I can tell you that that's a very serious health concern. And I'm glad to hear there's a second chance at ARPA money to get that floor removed, not just contained. I know that you can do containment, but this is a building that's predominantly designed for young people to learn about books, that it's predominantly used by young people, families with children, and those are the people that are most susceptible to the health effects of a carcinogen like asbestos. So I really hope that the folks that are making decisions about the ARPA funds seriously consider those, what I understand are pretty small amount of money relative to the whole for the library.
You're right, Bill. I think we got our award over the last year and a half. But they also have announced that they are giving away more money, and I think that you guys probably figured that out. We haven't hired a grant writer yet, but we certainly are poised to. We'll make sure that when things happen on the after town meeting, we will put things off until after town meeting. So we'll certainly go back and look and see what else is available.
Great. I'm very glad to hear that there is a second go at this, because what I had heard previously about most of the money going to one thing, it's kind of disappointing. It's nice to know that we might get more bang for the buck, as they say.
Yep.
Thank you.
That's the plan. Thanks, Bill. Hi, the folks that just joined. It's very relaxed. We're just having people come up, and if you've got something printed up, we'll take it. If you haven't, we're going to urge you to get it into me at some point in time, so that we can have a paper copy of whatever your proposal is. Fire department, you ready?
Here. Sorry, I was late. I'm just trying to catch up.
Yeah, Ginger playing musical chairs with you without the music.
There you go.
Ginger Parent, second assistant fire chief for the fire department, here with Chief Hall. Chief has a bunch of written information. Our first response squad was greatly affected by COVID, and it is on a daily basis. This past year, we've had approximately 60 medical calls. That averages out to once a week for people, multiple COVID calls. Our major problem right now is our first response vehicle. Our first response vehicle is at the point now where we're spending more money to fix it than we are to run it. Our local mechanics is mechanically it should be okay until no longer than 24 months, and then it's going to rot out from underneath us. We have started for the last few years a vehicle replacement fund to try to prepare for this, but we're not going to meet the mark for what we need to spend for what our needs are. I want to remind you that Bakersfield does have residents that we cannot reach in our fire vehicles. So we've tossed around the idea of, rather than getting an SUV like we have now, a pickup truck that will be loaded for not only EMS, but fire also.
Dual purpose.
Dual purpose. So we'll have air packs on. We did go on a call, myself and another captain, we did go on a call, and I got going down the road and the brakes were out on the car. We did make it to that call, but we need help. And the other thing you need to remember about your town's first response squad is we have no financial gain. We do not charge for any of our calls. It is all free of charge. There is no financial recoup for the tools and equipment that we use on scene. We are interested in looking at upping our license to an A level that will allow us to do other skills such as give IVs on scene. Certain other medications that go with that certification level. We've kind of put that on the hold Because it is gonna cost us some financial, and if we don't have the vehicle to give that service, there's no point in getting that advanced license.
There's also training and getting
Training,
people
I
certified.
personally have spent, this past year in 2022, I had over 200 training hours for fire and EMS. Yes, we're a volunteer squad, and with that goes the stereotype of a bunch of hillbillies that like to jump on a fire truck. That is not true of Bakersfield.
It's just bad home.
I work in 3 different districts. Full-time, I am a full-time firefighter, AEMT in Chittenden County. I also work in Lamoille County. And nobody trains harder than Bakersfield Fire out of those places. We meet once a week. We're here from our community. We are excited for our community. Most places you go to work and you just want to sit around and hope tones don't drop. In Bakersfield, we're ready and we want that, but we need the equipment to do it. And I'll pass the buck to Chief Hull about finances of all that.
Yep, specifically, what are you looking for? Is it the
So-
truck? Have you guys made a decision on?
We haven't made a decision. This has been relatively new to us in the past 6 to 8 months of tossing around the idea. We need to replace this vehicle. It is aging. We did get the vehicle on a grant, but it wasn't even a grant, it was free. I believe it was Williston, Colchester. Needed a little bit of work. We put the work into it. It served the community well. It really has. So it's been a great asset to us. We just need, we're not sure exactly what yet, whether it's a pickup extra cab with pull out box or a Tahoe Expedition. We're looking. We've gotten one quote for a Tahoe here. We're looking in the range of, it's going to be around 90,000.
Looking new or used?
Either or, if we could find something very good used that we're not going to put money into, that would serve the needs of the community as well as the needs of the department, then that's something that we would be open to. Both new and used in this market is not fun at all.
Yeah.
So that being said, even if we were to find something today, I don't think you would see it here for 12 months. Would be my guess. So I officially put together an RFP, a request for proposal, to hand to you, Brenda. I do have that here. So in our call numbers have slowly been increasing. The first response aspect of it has been the leaps and bounds increasing of our calls. As Ginger said, the A level is something that I, as fire chief, and the EMT folks are very excited about embarking into as well. And it's for community protection.
Absolutely.
Some of these remote location places, they're hard for Enosburg to get to, and it's an elongated process for them to get here. And for us to have a vehicle that's all-wheel drive, four-wheel drive, amphibious, if you will, that can get to these hard to reach places, it does make things a lot easier for the community as well as our responding members.
Yeah.
But also at the same token, this said vehicle will double up on the fire scene for a command vehicle, something to put air packs in. So it's not just going to roll, it'll roll for every call. This is the only vehicle that Bakersfield will have that will go for every call and not just first or fire.
And what's the year of the vehicle that you got now?
I think it's a 2004, is that correct?
Wow.
Either 2004 or 2006. Is that right,
It's
Bill?
almost old enough to drink.
Yeah, but it's been great. It's really been a good vehicle, we've kept it up well. We've put a lot of work into it to keep it where it is, and it's something that we do need to replace.
Yeah, I'm my periphery. I'm semi-aware of grants that are out there for fire departments that are annual grants. Are those just for the hydrants that we have seen, or?
There's a multitude of grants, and if Todd's
Yeah.
not here, he's more up to date on that. They are starting to dry up. And it seems to be those grants are going to the larger departments, the larger facilities.
And a lot of those grants, what we call 50-50 grants.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's not just free money.
No,
A lot of it is very detailed as to what you can ask for.
yeah,
And I don't think I've ever heard of a
one of the
grant.
things- one of the things that we wanted to do was make the ARPA funds go farther than 50-50, or we put up 60,000, they put up 60,000 of the grants a match. those would be important things that we could definitely work for.
So that is something that we would be totally open to, a percentage of, we're not asking for 100%. And I guess the percentage would be up to you folks, whatever, you know, if you deemed it necessary or possible or feasible, I should say.
Yeah, once we get all the numbers together and we can look at it objectively, I think that's what Josh's idea was, right? We want to
Yeah.
look at the numbers that the town has needs for, where we're not going to raise the tax base. And that we can replace things that really do need replacing that'll have a long-term effect on the town.
Okay.
Yeah, this is good stuff. I'm glad you brought
So
it.
I will hand you this. This
Yep.
is what I put together. You have something follow if you feel that it needs to be. Anything I heard, do it, please let me know.
Yeah, and thank you for putting the dollar amount in there, so. That's helpful. No, this is exactly what we want to need so that we can all look at it together. And one of the things that I think if we get an advisory board together, or, you know, citizens that'll come together and look at these and review them on their merits and how we can keep me out of prison because we did spend the ARPA money correctly. That would be a really good thing. We're in no hurry, but your urgency would be, because you continue to maintain and use that vehicle on every call, right? The one that you got now.
It's not an urgency in the sense that it needs to be done this month, next month, or the month after.
Within 12 months.
Correct. You know, we tend to try to think ahead and budget ahead, and this is on the forefront of our 2023 beginning thinking. So
Cool.
if I could ask a couple of questions on the ARPA. So the ARPA, I've read some of the rules on it, and
Good.
I might have quit at page 56. I don't remember. The final rule, has that been updated?
And we haven't had anything since the last final rule came out. I work closely with the Vermont League of Cities and Towns to make sure that we're all on the same page.
Okay.
And
I was trying to dig that up, and it said that the final rule could be subject to change or
Yeah.
updated.
that's what we had. We had
Okay.
3 or 4 final rules so far.
Right.
Okay.
And John and I
Yeah.
put together a grant fund. John did it, mostly put together a grant fund sheet that followed one of the first things that came out.
Yeah.
And we looked at it and scrapped it.
Yeah.
Tell that story.
Oh, yeah, it had, it was an easy form for anyone to fill out. It had drop downs. You just pick your thing. It literally said what category. It was simplified so that folks didn't have to sit down and try to figure out what to put in an RFP. It was just a basic questionnaire that you would fill out that would give the pertinent information that we would need to make a decision. And that lasted all of, I think I finished it, and within a week it was outdated. They changed it.
That's what I was looking for, and I was
Yeah.
unable to source anything of that nature.
Yeah, I sent it into the league to review it and they thought it was great, but the final rule was changed. I think it has, we have like 3 or 4 final rules now.
Yeah.
This one's probably the longest version of the final rule. It's several hundred pages.
Yeah, I noticed
So,
that.
and the problem is it keeps changing. So to Brenda's point, we're keeping her out of jail kind of thing. They, the thing is, they say, hey, this is how you're supposed to spend your money. And then they're like, oh, wait a minute, we changed that thought process. Now it's this. And some towns have already spent the money, like, I want to say it's Hyde Park or one of those down there, put new roads in. They use the money to pave the roads. 3 final rules later, that may not be acceptable, but they have to grandfather it because it was under the prior instruction. So it's a little hard. The final rules have become so in-depth and so wordy that you almost need a legal team to read it and interpret it for you.
Which is what we do have through the League of Cities and Towns,
Yeah.
because they're almost all lawyers there, and fortunately, they've kept us surprised by doing clinics frequently.
Yes.
The word that they used is clawback, which is kind of a nasty thing where you spend money, but now they said, well, nope, that wasn't an approved expenditure and they want it back.
Okay.
So we don't want to do that.
But
And
you have to, is it by the end of 2023? Allocate some of the funds, is that correct?
we have to have it in process, and the
In
thing.
process.
Yeah, the thing that we've got now is this stuff's in process. So what you brought me, what everybody's brought me over the last few months has been in process. So
Okay.
it's in a way that it is now with me, and soon when we move forward. And I'm checking out to make sure that everything that's been asked for so far is covered.
And finalized by 2027.
26, I believe.
26, we
it's-
gotta have it all spent
26.
by then.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you have to give it back. I'm sorry. No.
By 2026. The reality behind it is that we were waiting for further clarification on the final rule. But we also had a couple things come in that slowed the process down a bit. That was unavoidable for folks. So the idea that Brenda has had is have several meetings so that she can get as much information together and then put together a board to review it, just so that the town folks can kind of have their say on it, what they think could move and shouldn't move. And then it comes before the select board for final decisions.
So the final rule will affect how you're able to spend or allocate.
Yeah, we're pretty sure they've finally got it to where they're not gonna add any more language to it, because like you said, it's pretty thick.
It is, I spent a lot of time reading it and I became very puzzled as to
Yeah.
how to even interpret it.
Exactly.
As-
And your interpretation may not be theirs and theirs and
And the wording is very, can go a lot of ways.
yeah.
One of the things that we'll rely on is the people that we pay a fair amount of money to, which is the League of Cities and Towns, for their depth in these matters.
Okay.
And they have been continually giving us guidance. And with all due respect, we get this because we're elected town officials. But citizens can't go to it and ask questions, but we can filter questions through like this. And once we get these all together, they'll see what we've got first before we go to citizens and say, hey, here's what we got approved and here's what it looks like. So it hasn't all gelled in my head yet as far as how we're gonna handle it. But I'm pretty sure that we're not in a huge hurry to get rid of the money. Some people would like it tomorrow. I wish I could start writing checks out of it, but that's just not.
So moving
prudent.
ahead, you anticipate having monthly, bi-monthly meetings?
I think every couple months, once we get into summer, we should have enough where we can say, well, okay, there's about $350,000 worth of allocations there that we can do. Put those into place and then start writing some checks.
So the town has, is it 396?
What's the final figure, Tammy? Any idea what the final amount is?
It's around that.
396, 702 or something.
I got it. I got it in here as of last.
394. 394, 396,
Yeah,
of which a small portion has already been spent to get us the equipment so that people don't have to come in who don't feel comfortable showing up for meetings. We started building this back during the ARPA or back during the COVID scenario.
can't see what sheet that was on.
It does, you know, I was just, I'm close and it,
Yeah. So, yeah, so that's still in the bank.
Okay.
Hasn't gone out of here at all.
and the meetings will be, you just have them on the town website or
We'll
shoot
definitely
emails
post them.
to.
Yeah, it should be, there should be a little bit of notice before the meetings, and I don't know what Brenda's schedule looks like or what her plans are,
We'll see. A lot depends
Oh,
on
so we
town
can-
meeting day.
right?
Yeah,
Well, that is true too.
I think that's all I have. You have
Thank
any
you.
Other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Matt, you and I do need to schedule a meeting from a zoning standpoint, for something.
Shoot me an email.
Yep. I can do that. Now that I got the right email address. Now that I have the right email address,
Yeah.
thanks. Come on up.
Mark Laroche, Colon Catering. I guess the first question I have is, do I qualify as a small business? From what I'm seeing is it's all town affiliated organizations.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. The grant is designed for basically anybody who sustained a loss due to COVID. Whether it's a small business, an individual, I haven't seen anybody come through for computers for their kids yet, but that's eligible. If they had to stay home and had to get a computer for them to stay home and distance learn, that's eligible. Medical expenses that were extraordinary, that's eligible. There are many.
Typically lost 18 months of
Yep.
work.
Right.
I know you and I have talked several times.
Yeah.
And I said, I believe that qualifies the same way. J&A Auto qualifies if they wanted to go back for that. Some windows for employees, as you noted, have passed and you don't have any employees because you're self-employed and you contract work, so.
That's part of the issue. I have qualified for zero COVID money. Because I don't have any employees. So that kind of hung me out to dry.
Yeah.
So to speak.
I think we talked, when we last talked, we talked about an estimate of what business you weren't able to do during that time period. And then receipts of the business that you did do. So that we had something to compare and contrast it. And basically put it in writing, just very much like what Matt just handed me.
Yep.
Knowing what we're dealing with is part of what we gotta use when we start adding up the money, so.
Basically want to know what I lost.
Yep.
No.
Oh, absolutely. And again, good record keeping, what you had, whether it's a tax return or whatever, we'll hold everything proprietary here. And it'll just whatever you can use to substantiate what you lost. So,
In the proposal you want.
Yeah. yeah, just, corroborate what you're writing down for me. When Linda did the report, she had all the fees, all the money. Now we're working with interest and lawyers as well, because this is going on, and she brought me new figures and new information. So I imagine that if you're back in business, that's going to stay. You're going to be able to resume your regular income with that. And,
Back up last year.
yeah, so, and that's a good gauge of what you would have had if you had not had that issue. So, thanks.
Thank you.
Spell your last name for me, Mark.
LAROC.
Thanks. Bill.
This is Bill Irwin again. I wanted to speak in favor of the fire department's emergency medical services. If you look around in the room here, if you look around any town gathering, you'll see, like the rest of Vermont, we are an aging population, which is going to need more emergency medical services as time passes. Also, as a member of the health department in the office where we actually manage the emergency medical services for Vermont, I can tell you that we're very lucky in this town to have the dedicated professionals that you saw some samples of here with Ginger and Matt and Robert Willie's back there, who go out at all hours of the night to help people who are sick and injured, and sadly, in some cases, in their last days. And there are a lot of towns across Vermont where there are difficulties pulling together money to keep the emergency medical services going, period. We're very lucky in this town that we have very well-managed emergency medical services and fire services because of the way that we do it here in town. I've been very lucky to work for the fire department, work with the emergency medical services, and see just how concerned they are about doing the right thing first for providing the emergency medical services, the firefighting services, but also to make sure that any money they have is being spent absolutely for the best things. So I know I'm inside that department, but I do want to express that I get a look at the bigger part of the state from my position in government. And again, we're very lucky. So I hope that the select board and those who are making decisions about the ARPA funds can consider the investment in the fire and emergency medical services here to be extremely valuable and extremely wise. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Thanks, Bill.
Who's out? Who else? Anybody else?
Nope.
My thought wasn't to keep people here forever because we're in a snow event, and let people get home. Let's do this again, if I can, February. End of April, get together. Now, between now and then, people who want to be on the citizens committee that will be reviewing these, scrutinizing them, let me know. And Mark, when you get it, yours done, just get it to me. Let me know. I'd love to have a handful of people share in the responsibility of looking at these and helping decide this will work good for us. This doesn't quite work for us, but if we tweaked it, maybe it would. Certainly we'll let people come back and say, oh, I didn't know I had to do that, or I didn't know you needed that information. So more is better than less. And I think that'd be good. This is what.
When is your termination date with full all of wax to end? When I have to, when the money is going to be divided and accounted for, and the project is done for papers.
I think it'll be done when all the money's gone, and I see this as being able to start being dispersed during the summertime. We can do rolling disbursements. There's nothing carved in stone. I'm sorry. There's nothing carved in stone from a date standpoint, and we can do rolling disbursements. And, you know, again, with all due respect, the money's in the bank account. We have reports from our treasurer, so we know what's there. And as we spend down, that's going to be the time limit factor. If we spend it all, then we're done. I want to make sure we spend it all.
The application deadline?
Interestingly enough, I want to look into that when we get a grant writer, because there may be grants that are specific to adding ARPA money to get a grant, so a matching grant. And we're headed in that direction, and we'll know more after next Tuesday.
If I could add on to that, the one thing that they definitely said in every training I've been a part of for ARPA was that make your money stretch, find the matching grants. That's what they were preaching, was try to find a grant that needed the matching funds and use it to try to extend this money as far as you could. So if you had $250,000, technically you have 500,000. Of course, you're not going to find a grant for everything, but that was the thought process behind it.
In addition, I think, was it you, Bill, that mentioned that there are other funds that are becoming available? And whether they're for the broadband and they're dedicated to that, or it's for buildings and dwellings, and we don't have a sewer system here, but we have a water system. These are things that we will look at as they come up. It isn't a one and done thing. There may be more money available, so I would like to see that happen as well.
Can you tell us what the town itself is looking for from this fund?
John has a better handle on that.
So our grader was, I think it's 35 years old. We were having a lot of problems with it sourcing parts. We're looking to get some funds towards a grader that we identified and actually have put money on. We have the grader. It is a 2012. We didn't buy a brand new one. The brand new one was way too expensive. We're just looking to fund the grader out of that. There are a couple other things that they were talking about, maybe seeing if we could fund so that we don't have to pay third-party sources to do the work. For instance, the mowing on the side of the road. We paid a lot of money last year to have it. Some folks didn't like what was done. So they're looking at things like that. They're the two bigger the two items that I am trying to assist the road crew in writing their request for proposal. You're welcome. And of course, the other one is the town clerk portion of it, which we spoke a little bit about earlier, which is for the electronic recording of our records. As Brenda pointed out, and if you talk to Kathy, she'll tell you that the books that we put together that has all the information, those records are kept on site. And if we have any issues, fires or anything like that, we could wind up losing those and we don't have any records. There is a book fund, but this is to help fund the money or fund the hours that the people would have to scan in the thousands of records to get it into the system.
And you're recording started already? No, other money?
Tammy's prepared.
The book restoration fund has money in it to purchase the module, pay for the support in the system.
Right.
We haven't started yet. We put it on a computer. But if we could keep the book restoration fund just paying for the operational costs of the land module. And also it could afford, if we ever hook up to a portal where we're not hooking up to a portal at present. But it would be nice to have that money and not worry about that. So that money comes not from the town. That's a portion of clerk's fees. So it'd be nice if it could be supported on money that's not coming from the town in your taxes. And this is a temporary thing, so it's a shame to like drain that.
Yeah,
And this was one of the major reasons ARPA was given to digitalize records, because during COVID, there was a bit of a crisis, especially for small towns.
Right.
And, you know, Linda spoke once about somebody like, you know, maybe forging something from, and this is the portal, which is the future, which may not happen. But anybody can come in here and do research in these books. And if they just need, we never know.
My concern is they can do it remotely. They can do it.
Right.
But if we have the land module record in our computers and we look and there's a change on a deed in a book, we have something to say on this date, this was the deed. We have nothing like that now.
And vice versa, right? If something to Linda's point, if someone hacks the system and changes it, we still have the physical records. And mind you, this is 70 years of data that you have to have that makes it searchable. So it's going back quite a few, like I said, thousands of records and a lot of scanning and interactions with deeds. And just to dial down, this will enable folks to come in and instead of handing them a physical hard copy of the book, they'll go on the laptop and do the research. And the funds they pay that all electronically. It's a different way to do it. And it's just like more redundancy and security in our records here.
And right now, it's just you can in-office on. It's not something you can access on. But some of those books, they do the meeting, getting pulled apart by researchers. So it's three of us to get them back together the other day. I don't get it. So it would be nice not to have so much guarantee on themselves.
So filing a transaction would still be required to be done in person rather than.
Unless at some point it's elected to go to a court. Yeah, it's not leaving the office at this point. It's on the module.
It is backed up.
Back copy should was go bad. Right now, I have a copy of my deed.
Filing
But-
new purchases, new transactions will all be done. In
The way they are now, right,
Here.
without a portal, they can't access them,
we,
without attaching to the portal.
security is super important.
Yeah.
We weren't discounting you at all when a lot of people don't know how tight it has to be in order for it to be secure. So it's good to mention it, but also thoughtfully, you still got to transact business here. It can't be done remotely as it's planned now. But also when we get the module in and get the equipment set up, everything on a go forward basis will be added electronically as we go backwards and archive everything. So we'll have new processes for inputting records as well as going back and recapturing all of the old stuff. And it's a revenue stream.
There are researchers that will have us email copies.
Right, and you're ensuring, that, social securities are put out there, right?
There's no social securities on the deeds.
There's social security numbers on the transfer documents, you're asking for those.
Is your mic on?
I mean, if an attorney comes in for a transfer document, I imagine they have the social security of their client already.
I do know that the company Nemrick is doing this for multiple towns and have for years. I did speak to Adam, who is the individual, one of the individuals at Nemrick. The only thing that's really leaving our site and going anywhere is a backup copy or a snapshot copy of it will be stored. It won't be live to anyone. It's just stored into backup. But like everyone knows, when it comes to computers nowadays, nothing's safe. Your phone isn't safe. Your computers aren't safe. Your iPads, all that stuff. They find ways to get in. And the best thing we can do is try to stop them at every turn. And so far, I haven't heard of anything with Nemrick having that problem. I've known that company since 2014.
But even hard copies can be corrupted.
Well, that was your concern, yeah.
Easily.
Don't take security for granted,
I agree. I'm in the field. I agree with you completely. I agree completely on that.
But a backup would protect even the hard copies. If something happened to those, and I'm not just talking about fire or anything, but when they remove one, change it to the bottom, you never know. But a hard copy, a computed copy on this date, this is what that deed said. You know that's been corrupted, there's proof.
So just to conclude, we'll do this again, or someone will do this again in April, towards the end of the month. And hopefully by then we'll have constituted a group of folks who will review these and recommend them on to the select board. We can start I would hope to start writing checks, Mrs. Foote, probably June or July. Once we get approval, we can go ahead and start dispersing.
More pressing for some people than it is for others. There's huge hold up for the historical society. As you know,
Yeah, no, interest is something we've been paying because we're still waiting for money to come in from FEMA. And we had to take a note out to make sure all our bills were paid and we pay interest on that. So I'm very, very aware that the time factor, and if we could prioritize things, I think that would be a smart way to do it. And looking at extra cost or additional cost, like what Linda just handed me, we want to avoid that. I think that would be prudent.
I went to run my house. We fall behind the fire department in that aspect. They need theirs immediately.
I appreciate that.
They are a great group.
And when you do have a committee, we would like to give them an opportunity to come over and look at the building and see what had happened and what the repairs were.
When it's warmer.
We
That would be
had a
good.
mild winter.
We
Yeah.
did have a great winter.
So far, nice for jinxing it, John.
Drinks it for one.
All right, so end of April, we'll get minutes out to people. I'm gonna do I will do a log of what we've got so far, who's brought things to us. Mark, when you get it done, get it over to us and we'll put that in and we'll make sure that we stay transparent and above board for everybody. So, and if you, Bill, if you do hear of other grants or other money, God, let us know. Hopefully we'll have somebody that will secure that for the town as well as the library. And I know you know who I'm talking about. So hopefully we'll be able to move forward with that. All set. Anything else? Anybody else?
Thank you.
Thanks.